Alright then, Manchester United 2, Liverpool 1. Let's discuss what happened and also Slot's fourth loss on the bounce, but all only by one goal. So what's going on with this? Lots and lots of dodgy decisions in this game again. I have to say, as a Liverpool fan, I know that I'm probably biased. But if I'm being completely honest, there were some very, very questionable decisions in this game. A potential handball shout, that very similar handball to some that have been given in other games this season. And also the first goal, a head injury that Michael Oliver chose to ignore. And as a result of that advantage, it seems Man United score within the first minute. Also, massive questions for me about Konate this season. He's been underperforming massively, and in this United game, something that people haven't even been talking about as far as I can tell. Everyone's kind of been blaming Slot and the way that he went quite gung-ho at the end of the game, and we actually got back into the game because of it. Obviously, playing a 4-2-4 is always going to have its risks, but we had plenty of opportunities to get back into the game. Gakpo scoring one, but missing 3 times, hitting the post 3 times, you could argue unluckily, but also missing an absolute sitter of a header. Salah missing clear-cut chances, looking bang out of form, and just looking like completely out of sorts in many regards. Frimpong came on for him for the last 10 minutes and provided more big chance creations than probably Salah did for the entire game. Frimpong looking like a real threat again, but being underutilised by Slot. Another question and point, I should say, for Slot in general. Not playing Frimpong and persevering with Bradley. Obviously ended up putting, I think he put Szoboszlai at right back once Curtis Jones came on. Frimpong came on as a winger and looked really dangerous, like he did in that Galatasaray game before he stopped getting that service. Honestly, I think Frimpong looks like a real threat as a winger. And if Salah continues to underperform as he has, I think Frimpong really has to start playing for me, in my humble opinion. But Konate, the main focus of this game for me, Konate at fault for both the goals, in my opinion. Playing both of the attackers for their goals onside. Being about 2 yards deeper than the rest of the back line in multiple occasions, looking like he was always dropping deeper than Van Dijk. Really looking like, with having so many number 10s in the Man United team, knowing that they're obviously going to be expecting Van Dijk and Konate to win all the long balls, but we've just been heading it back down into midfield where they were winning the ball back time and time again. I was watching the game with my dad, and I said after the first few times, it's obvious they're not playing in number 9. They're not trying to win the headers. They're just lumping the ball up to Van Dijk, who wins every header. But then because we're outmatched in midfield, what was that? Random sound. Because we were totally outmatched in midfield in terms of numbers, they were just winning the ball back and countering onto our back four every single time. Something that Slot, I think, could have fixed quite easily with just adding another body in midfield, or just getting one of the forwards to drop back in there. I think if we had another player drop back in there and then just made the midfield four a bit narrower, we would have crowded them out in those areas and started winning the ball back. In the second half, I think we did start getting wise to it a little bit, and we did come back into the game for massive periods. I felt like we could have easily won the game, and we were quite unlucky again, if I'm being completely honest. But I think Konate, massive questions over his head for me at the minute, to be honest. There's been more reports today saying that he's potentially already got a pre-agreement with Real Madrid pretty much done. Not extending his contract, not really hearing much about him potentially extending his contract either. He's been offered another contract, but he seems bang out of sorts this season. Very, very distracted looking, making loads of mistakes. He's out of position for both the goals, in my opinion. Everyone's saying, oh, it's Van Dijk's fault for passing the defender off onto Konate. But if Konate isn't 2 yards deeper than Van Dijk, when the ball gets played, the attacker would have been offside. The goal would have been disallowed. For the second goal, when there's three Man United players on the back post, the whole team steps up. Konate's 2 yards deeper than the back line, plays all those people at the back post onside. He tries to recover by jumping across, but it's way too late. The damage is already done. And I find it interesting that no one's actually highlighted this. Everyone seems to be freaking out about Slot and his tactics, but I think really we were unlucky in this game again. I think Konate's, in my opinion, has thrown the game for us pretty much on his own. He's basically allowed both of those goals to happen. And not to mention, as I said, the first goal, Michael Oliver's 10 yards away from a head injury, chooses to basically play advantage for United, even though the protocols, as we know, for head injuries, regardless of the state of play, if the ball's in play, someone gets a head injury, the game gets stopped 9 times out of 10. I've seen about 50 head injuries this season so far in all the games that have been played. And basically 90% of the time, the game is immediately stopped regardless of the state of play. So a very unusual one from Michael Oliver there. There was also a period about 5 minutes later where McAllister was fouled and then collided with Bruno Fernandes, and Michael Oliver gave a foul against McAllister even though he'd been taken out by Casemiro. Another ridiculous decision, and there was plenty of them in this game, to be honest. Lots of time wasting by United, which is why there was so much added time. Everyone going, why was there 8 minutes of added time where you think there's 8 or 9 substitutions, which is 3 or 4 minutes by itself? Michael Oliver throughout the game going, I'm stopping the watch because the amount of time wasting, like taking 30 seconds to take throw-ins, taking a minute to take goal kicks. Obviously there was going to be time added on. But I really think Liverpool were unlucky in this game again. We had lots of chances, and I think if our forwards were in better form, we probably would have scored 3 or 4 goals and won the game quite comfortably. 4 losses on a bounce for Slot, but still I don't feel like there's a crisis that everyone's talking about. Obviously we're still trying to bed in the new players. I thought we looked pretty good against United. We were unfortunate for the first goal. We did concede a few more chances, which we need to look at in terms of the solidity in the midfield, and obviously the way that they were set up, they were winning a lot of those second balls in midfield and then attacking onto us, as you would expect when you're playing like 3 number 10s as your forwards. In Mbeumo, Cunha, Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes were basically just picking up the ball constantly in that area and then running in on the back 4 over and over again. Our midfield looking completely outmanoeuvred and also outnumbered in that area. Felt like that was something that we definitely could have potentially fixed earlier on in the match. But I still didn't think we were miles away from it, to be honest. I thought we were unlucky again, just couldn't get it over the line. 4 losses on a bounce, but only losing by 1 goal in all of the games, and 2 of the games losing basically in the last minute of the game. I think we've been pretty unfortunate, to be honest. And I definitely feel like we created enough chances to win the game. Obviously, when the goals don't go in, people get frustrated in terms of the fans. But I really feel like we haven't been as bad as people have been saying. And we'll still be there or thereabouts, I think, for challenging for the title, provided that we can get people scoring. Isak still looks like he's not getting the service that he deserves, probably because Salah, it just looks like he's basically not even playing at the minute. He's not contributing anything, in my opinion, in terms of the kinds of numbers, assists, chances created, running at players, all the kinds of positive actions that he was contributing last season. We're just not seeing any of it this season. You could say it's because of a slight change of tactics, but for being completely honest, he just looks bang out of form, and he could probably do with getting dropped for a few games for someone who's going to come and create an immediate impact. Can you imagine Frimpong all game on that right wing, constantly beating the left back because he's so rapid, they can't stop him, crossing balls into Isak and Ekitike in the middle? They're probably going to score 5 goals a game or something, aren't they? I really honestly think that it's time for the players that are obviously not performing to have a little bit of time on the bench. I think Salah could do with a few games on the bench to basically gather himself, because he seems absolutely out of sorts. He had a golden opportunity in that second half that he just completely missed. Could have squared it to Wirtz or Isak probably for an easy tap in. So there's been quite a lot to talk about in that Man United game versus Liverpool yesterday. But I think honestly we're not that far away from it, and I think everyone's overreacting. I think Wirtz, when he came on, looked really good. Chiesa looked really good when he came on. I think that honestly, when Ekitike and Isak were playing up top together, they looked pretty dangerous together as well. How long until we see Ekitike playing maybe as the left winger, Isak up front, and then whoever the right winger will be, he probably will persevere with Salah. Lots of people moaning about Kirkes as well. I didn't think he had that bad of a game, really. I don't think he conceded that many crosses. Obviously, for the first goal, I think that everyone's blaming him, saying that it's on his side, but in reality, I think that was Konate's fault as well. If you go back and look at the footage, I think it's pretty evident that Konate's played both of the forwards onside for both the goals when he shouldn't have been, really. Overall, I think we were unlucky again. Created loads of chances, could have had loads of goals, could have had 5 or 6 goals, really. Gakpo hits the post 3 times in the game. Very, very unfortunate. Fine margins in football, isn't it? And obviously we've been getting away with it this season in terms of those late winners, but now we're getting some late winners against us as well. And I think those fine margins, Liverpool need to do a little bit more to create proper chances in games so that we're not having to rely on these really fine margins for the win or the loss. Lost 4 games on the bounce, but all of them only by 1 goal. Could have easily had a few draws in there as well, which would have made the run of form that we've been in seem a lot less panicky than a lot of people are making it out right now. Overall, I really don't think Liverpool are playing that badly. Lots of people going, oh, it just looks really lethargic. But I really think that we're creating a lot of chances. There's definitely been some good transitions. Obviously, comparing to last season, everyone's going, there's a real lack of, those nice little intricate passings. I think we're going to get there. We're going to get there. McAllister still looks a bit out of sorts to me. Obviously, that head injury, I think, probably affected him for the whole game, to be honest. But Gravenberch, the Szoboszlai, McAllister, Gravenberch midfield looks a bit out of sorts. In general, the team just looks a bit out of sorts. But I still thought we were unlucky in this game. We could have had, like I said, 4 or 5 goals. Gakpo could have had 4 goals if he'd just been a bit more fortunate with the ones when he hit the post. He had that golden opportunity, which was like 6 yards out for a header that he totally missed. There was loads of chances in the game, in reality, where we could have won the game, and it was just a tough ask. Everyone's saying before the game we're going to absolutely stomp Man United, but I said last season it was 2-2. I said going into that game it's always tough against United because obviously we're their cup final at the minute, and that's pretty obvious from how they played. They played absolutely out of their skin against us, and really we were kind of coasting, and we still almost got a result, if I'm being honest. So I think Slot has obviously got some issues. But I still think as the season goes on and the new players get more settled and we start to figure out how to get the best out of everyone, that we're going to be totally fine. I think everyone's overreacting a little bit to the results we've had recently. And if I'm being completely honest, I think once all these chances that we are missing, I should say, or they're hitting the post, or Salah's starting to miss, they're going to start going in at some point when everyone starts to get back into form. And I think at the minute, we're kind of playing our way back into form, aren't we? We're persevering with Salah. We're persevering with Kirkez. We're persevering with Gakpo, who had a lot of chances yesterday. Obviously, he's not the best on the eye, but I think he has created a lot of contributions. And I think we're going to figure it out, aren't we? I don't think things are as in crisis mode as everyone would have you believe. And overall, I think we're going to be totally fine. Liverpool still a great team. I still think we'll be there or thereabouts for the title. I think we'll still be there or thereabouts in terms of the cups as well. Champions League, we'll see how we do on Wednesday, is it? Or is it Tuesday or is it Wednesday? But overall, I think we're going to be fine. Everyone's kind of overreacting. But big question mark for me over Konate. I'm a bit confused about how badly he's been playing this season. He makes so many good positive actions and then he throws it all away in those key moments where really he should be completely in a different position, if I'm being honest. So we've got some problems. Hopefully Slot's going to be able to sort them out and we'll see what happens next. As always, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Please do like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think Liverpool are in a crisis, or do you think we're just there or thereabouts really from winning some of these games and we're just being a bit unfortunate? I think that's probably more likely in my opinion. And I'll catch you in the next video. Cheers.